Is there any way to install WSL on non-C drive? Due to limited SSD space, I cannot afford for WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux, to be installed by default on my main C column drive by the Windows Store. Can I install WSL on a different drive? I have searched throughout Google, but there is no mention of this problem.
Yes. First, note the URL of the distribution you want to install in this list, x https://aka.ms-ubuntu2204. Now open PowerShell. You might find a file named .exe. Run that file, and the WSL distribution should be installed in the unpack folder of the other drive. If you don't see an executable, let's look for an .ax file that was just unpacked, that is the flavor you want, and unzip that, as follows. After completion, you can now delete everything just downloaded created except extension 4.vhdx, 4WSL2, or roofs, 4WSL1, and ubuntu.exe file, which starts that distro and can change the default username.
There seems to be a much easier answer to this, at least on Windows 11 if you're not really wanting to run around with PowerShell commands in your head. Basically, install a distro. For example, unregister it. This deletes your root drive as such, but doesn't remove the Ubuntu image. Go to Settings is greater than Apps and Features, search for Ubuntu, then click on the three dots button next to the result, should look something like this. Click on Move, then just choose the drive. Go to the Start menu, or hit the Windows key or whatever works for you, search for Ubuntu, and run it, which kicks off the installer. Everything it does will now be on the drive you chose, including the running disk image.
I really like it Wasif's answer, but I'll add some additional details that didn't seem appropriate for an edit. First, and most importantly, as noted in the comments, the .exe typically is no longer found directly in the ax package. The ax that you download is a now MSIX package that can, and does, in this case, include packages for multiple architectures. For most distributions, after the expand archive, you'll find several additional ax files, but no .exe. For example, here are the contents of the Ubuntu 20.04 package. The important ones are the _ARM64 and _X64 packages. Choose the one for your architecture, typically _X64, and expand archive that package. Note that, if you are using PowerShell Core, you can expand archive the ax file directly. Otherwise you'll need to rename it to a .zip as Wasif's answer recommends. After expanding that archive, you should find the .exe file you need to run. If you are concerned about disk space, realize that all that you need from the extracted archive are two files. You can move these over to the top-level directory that you created, /WSL, and delete everything else. I do recommend copying the files before running the .exe, as the location it is in will end up being the installation location. After installing, you can also remove the install.tar.gz. You could even remove the .exe, but you might want to keep it around. It can be used to either run the distribution or to change the default username if needed. Note that installing this way will not create a Windows Start menu entry for the distribution. It's still possible to set one up manually to point to either WSL.exe for the default distribution or WSL-D.
WSL requires the C drive, but you can move distros to other drives. WSL export.back. WSL unregister. WSL import d:\example.back. This can lead to linker errors, but hopefully those are easier to resolve than this obscure feature of import was to find.
If you want this channel, please consider liking and subscribe.